What is up, everyone? My name is Mr. J, and today I am bringing you a deck profile for Black Royal Knights. If you haven't checked up the videos showcasing this deck on the channel, please make sure to go check that out. Those videos do a good job of showcasing the strengths and weaknesses of this deck. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so I started the video off with the megas on purpose, that way you can see the top end of this deck. But let's get into the rookies. We are running 4 copies of the Toy Agumon. Of course, Toy Agumon, the one that gives the ESS reboot to your big guys, he's undoubtedly the best rookie you have in your deck, and you always want to see him on your megas, especially on Craniumon. Alright, then moving on, we have 4 copies of Toy Agumon, the one that lets you draw if your opponent did not attack you during their turn. So this is the spice. I have playtested this deck so much just for it to continuously break, because there's no way currently to search any of your Digimon besides the memory boost card, which is extremely slow in an already slow deck. So with this Toy Agumon, if your opponent doesn't attack their turn, you will draw an extra card once it passes to your turn again. And that extra draw is so invaluable for unbreaking your hand or giving you extra play options. So these used to be copies of Chikurimon, and I don't regret changing them out. This is just player preference. If you think Chikurimon is better, then you can go ahead and challenge me to a Black Royal Knights mirror match, and we'll see which rookie is better. Alright, JK, unless you really want to do it. But in all seriousness, player preference, I find this Toy Agumon to be of more value than relying on Chikurimon to be in one of my 5 security. Then moving on, the next one, we have 3 copies of Sonorizumon. So he's mostly here because most of your stacks will have 13,000 DP, giving your megas that extra security tech. I'm in love with the aggressiveness of that. Though I won't lie, I sometimes wish these were an extra 3 copies of the reboot Toy Agumon. And then rounding off our rookies are 2 copies of Gatsumon. I love Gatsumon just because against rush decks, you know, they'll rush you down with their 2k rookies. And Gatsumon's a 3000 DP rookie, so he's good at blocking and also surviving. So perfect. I wouldn't change him out, and I think he's a welcome addition to this deck. Okay, moving on to our champions. So we are playing 3 copies of Dark Tyrannomon. So yes, I know he's only 5000 DP and there's so much hate for these blockers, but Dark Tyrannomon is indispensable because he's only 1 cost to Digivolve on top of being a blocker. So he's good at holding your opponent at bay if he's trying to rush you down. 4 copies of Tankmon. So this could easily be 4 copies of Numemon, but I wanted a cheap evo cost Digimon that doesn't get deleted easily by 5000 or less DP Digimon hate. This could also be 4 copies of Nanimon, but again, I don't like playing security Digimon just for the security effect. Then again, Nanimon is a 3 cost just to drop, so I might consider it, or either cut this down to 2 Tankmon, 2 Numemon. Alright, continuing. We have 2 copies of Mechanorimon. Mechanori helps slow down the game, and it works wonders against decks that try to rush you down, or decks that are just faster at building wide, so he's a necessary evil. I used to run him at 1 copy, but I do like it at 2. And lastly, we have 2 copies of Sealsdramon. These used to be 2 copies of Numemon, but these help with the Toy Agumon that nets you a draw. And he's a very sticky blocker, being 6000 DP. For that reason, I never feel bad hard playing him for 5 when it's necessary. But that rounds up our champion lineup. Let's move on to the ultimates. We are playing 4 copies of Volcanomon. So this is our main ultimate. This is the guy we want to see. I'm running 4 copies of Volcanomon for 2 main reasons. First reason, the security attack +1 that he gives your Digimon adds much needed aggression to this black deck. And this pretty much punishes your opponent for playing wide and having unsuspended Digimon. The second reason is that Volcanomon is cheap to play if you brick. He's only a 6 memory cost to play, while Digimon like Gagmamon will cost you an excruciating 8 memory cost to play. Volcanomon is the ultimate I want to see every game. The other added benefit is, unlike Sonorizumon, which your Digimon has to be black, Volcanomon will work with your level 7 Digimon such as Omnimon, Chaosmon, whatever it may be. And then our secondary mega, we have 4 copies of Megadramon. This is pretty much a vanilla under Craniumon, but this will give your Alphamon blocker. If Alphamon has a blocker and he has the Kapurimon Digitama in his sources, he will be at 12,000 DP natively, so he'll survive more security swings without having to pay the extra memory, and that's why I really like him. I also love having a Craniumon on board with Megadramon under an Alphamon. That way your Alphamon is immune to deletion effects, so then that way both of your Megas are protected. Before I used to have 2 copies of the other Megadramon that's a red Digimon that gives 2000 DP, and I really like that. I think for a more aggressive build, I would change out the Megadramons for that Megadramon that gives you the ESS extra 2000 DP. And moving on to the big boys that you saw in the beginning. Alright, starting off with our main Mega for Black Royal Knights, we have 4 copies of Alphamon. I just love this Digimon. Alphamon looks so badass. I mean, look at the artwork. So pros for Alphamon, first you can digivolve him into the breeding area and not feel like you're losing value. Second, he's only 3 to digivolve. So with a Tamer in play, digivolving into him won't pass your turn like Craniumon will or Gankumon. The third thing is he can beat over anything in the game currently, even in Omnimon, all by his lonesome just by paying the memory. With that being said, fourth, the memory gain is extremely underrated. You can choke your opponent or extend your plays so that you pull ahead of your opponent tempo-wise. The downside for Alphamon, however, is that he does lack the removal power that Gankumon offers, which was apparent against the Hexablaumon deck if you've seen that match. But I'll be honest with you guys, I paid a good amount of money for this Alphamon, and I knew before the pre-release that I wanted for sure to get 4 copies of the alternate art, so that's why I'm running him. But it could be said, it would be more optimal, I think, to put some Gankumons in the list. Which pretty much gives away the next Mega, which is the 3 copies of Craniumon. These used to be 3 copies of Gankumon, but I was tired of digivolving into Gankumon, passing turn, just for the Gankumon to get deleted by an Ultimate Flare, an Iron Fisted Onslaught, a Wyvern's Breath. Craniumon is very sticky, and with the right Digivolution line, Kapurimon, with a combination of either Sonorizamon or Volcanomon, means that if needed, Craniumon could swing for 2 checks, potentially even 3 checks, which is dirty when you consider he has protection against deletion effects. So you can swing into security and you don't have to worry about Fly Bullet, Gaia Force, Iron Fisted Onslaught, though you do have to be careful against other black decks or decks that run Wyvern's Breath. And then here I will include the level 7s. We are running 2 copies of Omnimon Ultra-S. So this is great against decks that love to play wide, and your opponent always has to worry about his attack being unblockable with his second effect. If the Omnimon has a Volcanomon under him, like I stated earlier, he will swing for 2 checks, which is nuts. So 2 checks unblockable. But I think in the future, I might change him out for a removal card, either a Millenniumon or a Chaosmon. Like I said, he's great against decks that play wide, so Justmon just de-digivolves and then pretty much deletes all the Sistermons on board. Or against Gabuband or any other deck that likes to spam out their rookies, Omnimon Ultra-S is great for just clearing boards. Alright, and that's it for our big boys. Moving on to the non-Digimon cards. So, for our Tamers, we are running 3 copies of Izzy Izumi. You could take one of these out for the dual black Tamer, Izzy and Joe, but again, I'm always thinking about consistency, and Izzy can help you slightly unbrick your hand by reorganizing your next top 3 cards when he's played. I remember I used to get mad at this card when it first came out because I was like, dude, like this Izzy is pretty much an extremely trashy version of TK, the yellow TK. Like if this guy lets you search the top 3 and then add 1 to your hand, that would be amazing. But sadly, it's not like that. Either way, Izzy could be a mini Hammer Spark insecurity. And again, I value the consistency that he adds to the deck. And speaking of consistency, we have 2 copies of Black Memory Boost. I honestly hate this card. It's a necessary evil, however, because you have no way of searching your megas. Think about Huckmon and how that rookie can literally search the whole Jesmon line, even Sistermons that might be missing. That's what this Black Royal Knights deck lacks, a searcher to boost consistency. So that's why we're forced to run 2 copies of this card. But I'm not gonna lie, I might just switch out these 2 copies, one for another mega and the other one to be another removal spell. And then our last option card, we do have 3 copies of Ultimate Flare. This used to be 2 copies of Ultimate Flare and 1 copy of Iron Fisted Onslaught, and spoiler alert, I'm definitely going back to the 2 and 1 split. Ultimate Flare is insane against decks that spam Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less, while being great removal against stacks. But it can backfire if your opponent has, if he hard plays Digimon that are problems. That's why Iron Fisted Onslaught should be included in this package, just in case. Alright, but that wraps up the deck. Let me get everything set up and then we'll do the strengths and weaknesses of this deck and what I would change in the future. Alright, so I laid out the deck. Not perfect, but just wanted to give you a brief overview of the strengths and weaknesses. So Craniumon is a big boy, and with the aggression from the reboot toy Agumon, or with the Sonorizamon and Volcanomon, he is a literal tank. Then Alphamon can put in a lot of work, and if your opponent has no way of removing him, he can win you the grind game all on his lonesome. He can buff himself so that he doesn't get deleted versus security Digimon. This means that most of the time you will get the full value off your security +1 ESS buffs. So that's the Volcanomon and the Sonorizamon. So moving on to the weaknesses, this deck did extremely well in the first 2 matches, but a lot of the times I could not punish my opponents that played their single stacks or that hard played high level Digimon. So a Gankumon is definitely coming back into this deck, perhaps a 3-2-2 split or a 3-2-3 split. I'm thinking of just taking out 1 Alphamon and 1 Craniumon and putting in 2 Gankumons. I don't want to remove too many Alphamons just because, again, it might be optimal to have Alphamon at 2 because I think he's the weakest, but I love him. He's a badass card, and that's why I'm playing this game, you know, to pretty much play with the Digimon you love and try to make it work. The other weakness was mentioned before. It's that this deck can brick, but just restating it here that there are no consistency boosters besides the memory boost over here, the 2 copies, and it just really hinders the deck. There were a few games where I didn't see a mega or I didn't see an ultimate, and in this way black is very reminiscent of green decks. Again, my remedy to this was to include the toy Agumon right here that nets you a draw if your opponent doesn't attack. So you can slap a Dark Tyranno on top of the toy Agumon, or you can slap a Seals Dramon on top of the toy Agumon. Hell, you can even slap the Mechanori on top of the toy Agumon. But that's all for the deck profile. Let me know what you guys think and how you run your own Black Royal Knights deck. Stay tuned. Next, we're going to do Yellow Royal Knights / War Greymon. And again, we'll do a few matches with that. And then at the end of those matches, we'll do the deck profile / deck analysis, just like we did here. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Thank you all for watching. My name is Mr. J, and I will see you all next time.